This story, titled I Discovered My Partner's Secret Life Online, begins in the quiet suburb of a Midwestern town where everything seems as ordinary as the picket fences lining the streets. My name is Sarah. I'm 42 years old, and for the past 8 years, I've been in a relationship with Mark. He's the kind of man who makes people laugh at gatherings, always the center of attention, charming and disarming. We live in a modest but cozy home with our golden retriever Daisy, and for the most part, our life has been steady, predictable. At least that's what I thought. It all started a few weeks ago. Mark had been acting different. Nothing major at first, just small things. He seemed glued to his phone more than usual, tilting the screen away when I walked by. He would laugh at something and quickly close the app before I could glance over. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, that maybe he was planning a surprise for me or sharing jokes with his friends. But as days turned into weeks, the feeling that something wasn't right began to gnaw at me. One night, while Mark was in the shower, his phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I rarely, if ever, looked at his phone. We'd always respected each other's privacy. But this time, something compelled me. The notification wasn't from a friend or family member. It was from an app I didn't recognize. Something with a vague, almost cryptic name. My heart raced as I stared at it, debating whether to open it. I hesitated, my fingers trembling, but curiosity won. I unlocked his phone. His passcode was one I'd known for years, a combination of our anniversary date, and opened the app. What I saw made my stomach drop. The app was filled with conversations. Hundreds of messages, each one flirty, playful, some downright inappropriate. They weren't with friends or colleagues. They were with strangers. Strangers who seemed to know a version of Mark Fuzz didn't recognize. He had a profile picture I'd never seen before. A photo where he looked younger, carefree, and confident in a way that felt distant from the man I knew. The bio was short but suggestive, painting a picture of someone looking for fun connections. I felt a rush of emotions: confusion, anger, sadness. Who was this person? Was this really my Mark? My hands shook as I scrolled through the messages, each one a new punch to the gut. Compliments, inside jokes, emojis. One message even read, "Wish I could meet you tonight." When Mark emerged from the bathroom, I was still standing there, frozen, his phone clutched in my hand. The look on his face when he saw me said it all: guilt, panic, and an almost instinctive defensiveness. "Sarah, what are you doing?" he asked, his voice sharp but shaky. "I could ask you the same thing," I replied, my voice cracking. "What is this, Mark? Who are these people? And why do you have this secret profile?" For a moment, he said nothing, just stared at me as if trying to figure out the best way to spin this. Finally, he sighed, running a hand through his damp hair. "It's not what you think," he began, his tone pleading. "It's harmless. I was just bored. It's just a way to pass the time. I swear, it's nothing serious. Harmless." That word echoed in my head, bouncing around like a pinball. Harmless? Was this how he defined harmless? Talking to strangers behind my back, flirting, hiding parts of himself from me, I couldn't hold back the tears any longer. Harmless? Mark, this feels like a betrayal. How could you do this? How could you keep this from me? "I wasn't trying to hurt you," he insisted. I didn't think it mattered because it's not real. It's just online. You're overreacting." Overreacting. Another word that felt like a slap in the face. Was I overreacting? Maybe. To him, these messages didn't mean anything. But to me, they were a crack in the foundation of our relationship, a sign that something wasn't as solid as I believed. "I don't even know who you are anymore," I whispered, turning away from him. For the next few days, our home was filled with tension. Mark apologized repeatedly, but his apologies felt hollow, more like he was trying to smooth things over than genuinely acknowledging my pain. I couldn't stop thinking about those messages, replaying them in my mind, wondering how many other secrets he might be keeping. One night, as I sat alone in the living room, Daisy curled up at my feet. I started to question everything. Was I overreacting? Was I making too much out of something that didn't have to mean the end of us? Or was this a sign, a warning, that I needed to reevaluate what we had? The days after the discovery of Mark's secret online profile were some of the most agonizing of my life. Every time I looked at him, I couldn't help but see the man who had lied by omission, the man who had willingly sought out validation from strangers while I sat at home, oblivious. I tried to carry on as if things were normal, but the tension between us was palpable. I found myself watching his every move, questioning every text he sent, every smile he gave to his phone. It wasn't healthy, and I knew it. But how could I trust him again? How could I let this go when it felt like a betrayal of everything we'd built together? One evening, I decided we needed to talk. Really talk. I couldn't go on pretending that this issue would resolve itself. I waited until after dinner, when the dishes were cleared and the house was quiet. Mark, I began, my voice firm but trembling, we can't just sweep this under the rug. I need to understand why you did this. I need to know what's going on in your head. He sighed, leaning back in his chair, his expression one of exhaustion mixed with guilt. I told you, Sarah, it was harmless. I didn't mean for it to hurt you. I never even thought of meeting any of those people in real life. But why, Mark? I pressed. Why did you feel the need to create that profile? Was I not enough for you? His eyes widened, and he quickly shook his head. No, it's not about you. It's not about us. I don't know. Maybe I was just bored. Maybe I wanted to feel, I don't know, younger? Like I still had that spark. That spark. The words stung. Had he lost that spark with me? Was our life too predictable, too routine? I'd always thought we were happy, content. But now I couldn't help but wonder if I'd been blind to his dissatisfaction. I don't know if I can just forget about this, I said softly, my voice breaking. It feels like you cheated, even if it wasn't physical. You lied to me, Mark. You hid this from me. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd react like this, he snapped, frustration creeping into his voice. And how else was I supposed to react? I shot back, anger bubbling to the surface. You broke my trust, Mark. You betrayed me. Do you even understand how much this hurts? The conversation ended with no real resolution. He apologized again, promised he wouldn't use the app anymore. But the damage was already done. The seeds of doubt had been planted, and they were growing rapidly, overtaking everything else. A week later, I found myself sitting in my best friend Lisa's kitchen, pouring my heart out over a cup of coffee. Lisa had been my rock through so many ups and downs, and I knew she would give me the honest advice I needed. I just don't know what to do, I admitted, tears streaming down my face. I love him, Lisa. I've spent 8 years with him. But how do I move past this? How do I trust him again? Lisa leaned forward, her expression sympathetic but firm. Sarah, you have to ask yourself if this is something you can truly forgive. Because if you can't, it's going to eat away at you. And if you do decide to forgive him, he needs to understand that he has to work to rebuild your trust. It's not going to happen overnight. Her words hit me hard. Forgiveness, trust, rebuilding. Could we do that? Did I even want to? At night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling as Mark slept beside me. I thought about all the moments we'd shared, the laughter, the love, the quiet, everyday routines that had become the fabric of our life together. I didn't want to throw that away. But I also didn't want to live in a relationship where I felt like I was constantly looking over my shoulder, questioning his every move. The next morning, I made a decision. I sat Mark down at the kitchen table, the same place where we'd had so many conversations about our future, our dreams, our plans. Mark, I began, my voice steady but filled with emotion. I need to be honest with you. This has been one of the hardest weeks of my life. I've been questioning everything about us, about our relationship. And I've realized something. I can't just move on from this unless we make some serious changes. He looked at me, his expression a mix of guilt and hope. What do you mean? I need you to understand how much this hurt me, I said. I need you to really hear me when I say that this wasn't harmless. It was a betrayal. And if we're going to move forward, we need to rebuild our trust. That means complete honesty, no more secrets. I understand, he said softly. I'll do whatever it takes, Sarah. I don't want to lose you. His words were sincere, but only time would tell if his actions would match them. As I sit here today sharing this story with all of you, I don't know what the future holds. I've chosen to give Mark a second chance, but I know that rebuilding trust is a long and difficult process. Some days I feel hopeful, other days I'm filled with doubt. But one thing is certain, I've learned the importance of speaking up, of setting boundaries, and of valuing my own feelings. If this story resonates with you, like, comment, and subscribe.